I call the Honourable Minister for Immigration and Border Protection.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I'm glad this matter is put forward for public debate in this chamber today. It is a matter of public importance that we debate these issues, and I'm disappointed that the debate has just been started with a call to unity, but the Leader of the Opposition spent quite a big deal of his time actually engaging in partisan commentary on this issue. And, Madam Speaker, I don't intend to follow that example. I tend to follow the example of Sir Henry Parkes, who said many years ago, he said, "What we are doing by this great federal movement is not for us, but for them, for the untold millions that will follow us, until this land of Australia shall gather within its bosom all the fruits of the culture of the world, and until the flag of freedom shall be planted here so firmly and guarded with such a fervent patriotism that all the powers on earth shall never assault it." That was the father of federation, Madam Speaker, and he is a leader to whom I think we can all look as someone who played such a significant role in the formation of our nation. And Sir Henry Parkes' vision, I'm pleased to say, Madam Speaker, is a reality today. It is something that continues to be built on. It is something that remains, although achieved in so many respects, carries an aspirational virtue to it that drives us all on to continue to meet, I think, the worthy words of Sir Henry Parkes at that time. Australia, in my view, Madam Speaker, and I'm sure in the view of all members of this House, I would hope, is the most successful immigration country on earth. It is. The great legacy of Parkes and others who followed him, Corwell and Menzies and others, and indeed the father of the House, the former Minister for Immigration, the member for Berowra, that this vision, this dream has been realised over generations, and not just, Mr Deputy Speaker, in the post-war period, because we have had over 200 years of successful immigration to this country. And we are all immigrants or children of immigrants unless we're Indigenous Australians, all of us. And more than 50% even of Australians today, Mr Deputy Speaker, are either born overseas or are the child of someone who was born overseas. More than 50% of Australians today have a direct or personal experience of either being born overseas or the child of someone who was born overseas. Over 7 million immigrants have come to Australia since the end of World War II. But as I said, it doesn't start there, because we all, in most cases other than Indigenous Australians, have this migrant experience, and it's important that we identify the links between our various migrant experience to build and maintain the social cohesion for which Australia is so famous for around the world. Now, the success is based, Mr Deputy Speaker, on people have come to this country to join us. They have come to this country to join us and to make a contribution, and through that contribution continue to create the Australia of the future that others who follow us will inherit. We are a nation of joiners, and I'm not terribly interested in what's in people's wardrobes, Madam Speaker. I'm interested in what's in here. I'm interested in the values that they proclaim and stand by. I'm interested in the contribution that they make to this country, because in this country you're judged on what you get done and what your contribution is and how you participate. And I think participation in this country is what defines us as Australians. It's about the values we hold. It's about the way of life that we have. It's about the contribution that we make, that there is one law for all, that there is freedom of religion enshrined in our Constitution. These are the very things that make up the society we so cherish today and that all Australians so deeply cherish. This is Australia's immigration experience, Mr Deputy Speaker. But what has driven this cohesion? What has driven this cohesion has been the economic and social participation of migrants over centuries, over generations, and we need to continue to encourage that participation. What separates us as an immigrant nation in Australia from the different stories that we read of and we are aware of in Europe and the United Kingdom and Germany, where the debate, frankly, is not relevant to this country, because we have a very different experience in this country of being an immigrant nation to those, and we have followed a very different immigrant path. And our results are completely different. If you look at the experience of migrants, and particularly the children of migrants, you will see in the research that they have as or greater a level of labour force participation, as or greater a higher level of educational attainment as or lower a level of unemployment. And that is the experience in this country, but it is the inverse in many countries overseas. And the reason that has been achieved is because in this country we have always run an immigration program that has been inviting people to come here to make a contribution and to be involved, particularly economically. In this country, our immigration program has been a success because it has been predominantly an economic program, not a welfare program. And people come here to make that contribution overwhelmingly, and that's why we have had so much success. And research studies show it, Mr Deputy Speaker. It shows that through the participation in the economy particularly, and also reinforced where you have a national language. Now, that's not to say there cannot be many other languages. There should be. I would hope in future generations more Australians speak more and more and more languages. But there must be one national language, because that is the ability, it gives us the ability to come together, whether in a workplace or in a social space or in a religious space or any other space, and be able to have the cohesion upon which that depends. And what we find, Mr Deputy Speaker, what we find, particularly in our settlement programs, and the former Minister of Immigration at the table will know this, in that where you focus on getting migrants into jobs and with improving their education and improving their English language skills, the greater the success they have. And that's what we have to focus on in addressing the issues that are the subject of this debate here today, Mr Deputy Speaker. In Australia, we have always focused on the skills side of this paradigm, and that has been a key economic objective of this country over many generations. But we have also sought to socially have people integrate into this country. And integration is a word we should never surrender, Mr Deputy Speaker. There have been other words that have been used in this debate in the past, and they've been surrendered. But integration is about participation. And when communities participate, as the overwhelming majority of communities do, then we see the success. Multiculturalism, when it works, when it's done properly, is about bringing people together. When it's done the wrong way, it becomes an excuse for people to remain separate, enclaved and disengaged. And that is a recipe for social disaster. And that is something I'm sure every person in this House doesn't want to see be the future of this country. Mr Deputy Speaker, we have gone through a period of time in our history where the divide, if you like, in the past has been on issues of ethnicity and race. And Australia is such an overwhelming idea that it overwhelms those divisions as it has with ethnicity and race. But from time to time, the dividing line of religion has presented itself. But I'm an optimist, Mr Deputy Speaker, because it's not the first time the dividing line of religion in social cohesion has been present in this country. There was once a time when there was a religious community who was accused of being a danger to Australia, but not being loyal to Australia, even by virtue of their religion alone, terrorists. It was the Catholic community of the 1800s, and now they're running the joint. Now they're running the joint on both sides, Mr Deputy Speaker. And this is the great success. And this is why I feel so optimistic about the challenge we face today, where we have similar religious divides and misperceptions that are in the community. I know that Australia, as an idea, as an ideology even, Mr Deputy Speaker, as an experience, will overwhelm these divisions through improved understanding, through improved engagement. We cannot be naive to the fears, we cannot be naive to the risks on all elements of this debate. But we also must be optimistic, Mr Deputy Speaker, in engaging. And, next year we're going to have a great opportunity with the centenary of Anzac. And as I've gone and engaged in mateship treks with the member for Blaxland now over many years, the one thing that we see every time is that the diggers who died for the future of Australia, we now live it. We are the inheritors, the beneficiaries of their sacrifice, each of us in equal measure, no greater, no less, regardless of our religion, regardless of our ethnicity, regardless of our race. We are the inheritors of their legacy, and we have the responsibility of continuing to strive to a better Australia, but one that strives to uphold the values that those very diggers live by, and those values can be embraced by every Australian, regardless of their race, regardless of their religion and regardless of their ethnicity.